Well, hello everyone. It's about that time. This is your amazing new host, Dr. K. Michelle Watson, and I personally want to welcome you to my new podcast, Let's Just Talk About It, the premier place to keep up to date on some amazing topics and discussions that will encourage you to consider the phenomenal power of change. I hope you enjoy the show, so let's get straight into it. Hey y'all, good, great evening. Welcome to this episode of Let's Just Talk About It. I'm your host, Dr. K. Michelle Watson, and I'm so excited to have you with me tonight. This episode continues our efforts to talk about the amazing power of change. As I like to start my podcast with a grateful heart of thankfulness to the amazing people that helped to make this podcast possible. Thank you to my production team and producer Kratos Media, and our outro music by Dr. Ronnie Saul or Dr. Yasha Bardiona of August Child Media Productions. And I want to welcome you because you know me, I get pumped about just about anything. And you already know how we do it because we simply just talk about it. And tonight, as I always say, we will not disappoint as we set the stage for what's to come. And this episode, again, is produced by Kratos Media and Appreciate Change Media Productions. Y'all ready? Absolutely. I know that you are. So let's get right into it as we drive this enlightened conversation, ultimately to address our own, as I call them, roadblocks, and understand and account for the many barriers that keep us with a all or nothing mentality. So many of my phenomenal guests are going to be here tonight to provide insights on how to actually learn to see things through a different lens, and a lens that will help you appreciate the power of change for a lifetime, because there's something to love when we think of being changed beyond the challenge. So joining us today is my good friend of over 35 years, a woman of faith and favor. And that is no other than Crystal Johnson. She is the CEO of New Day Counseling. She is a certified master life coach. She's a licensed pastoral counselor. She's a professional counselor. She's an LPC. She's a certified neuro-linguistic practitioner. She's a certified hypnotist, and she is also a certified EFT clinician, and she is located in Randallstown, Maryland. And tonight we're just going to talk about it. We're going to talk about how to be changed to create your new day. Let's welcome my best friend ever, Chris, to our episode today.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Thank you. Welcome, bestie.
Thank you. What a lovely introduction. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, yeah, I did do that.
You did do that. Absolutely. You've done all that and more. And I am so honored that you would just take a few minutes with us tonight and join our podcast. So let's just talk about it. You know, this is not anything new to you, Chris, because we just talk about everything, to be honest. Right?
Yeah, we do.
Everything. We talk about everything. Chris is the kind of person that knows my deepest, darkest secrets, right? And
Mhm.
she ain't taking them nowhere. She's keeping them
Mm.
to herself. And that's a faithful friend.
Yes.
And I'm just so grateful to her because God has allowed her to just take on this new amazing mantle of change through
Yeah.
her organization, New Day.
Yeah.
And it was back maybe several years ago, maybe around 2010, 11. Chris and I used to travel everywhere, and we would often find ourselves on the beaches of Virginia Beach. And we would be writing and studying as I was working on my PhD and she was working on her master's and pastoral counseling and so much more. And I could just remember all the times we've talked and shared and we've enlightened each other. We've raised our children together. We've just done some phenomenal lifelong things.
Yeah.
And when I began Appreciate Change Consultant, she also began New Day Counseling. And she understands the amazing power of change that needs to be ignited when we need a new day.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to talk a little bit because I
Mhm.
know she has some phenomenal things to share. So, Chris, we're just going
Yeah.
to put it on the table. If you know
Yeah.
how we do it, right? We just have
Yes.
a
Yes.
conversation.
Yes.
There are lots of things that people go through in their lives, and often they're challenged by those circumstances. Often they're challenged by trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Often they're challenged because of tragedies, and there are times in their lives where they need to figure out how do I get to my new day.
Yeah.
How does that even happen? Because I'm just going through so many struggles. I'm on the
Yeah.
struggle bus, and I'm just life is life, and I'm just having problems seeing the light of day to
Yeah.
even imagine what a new day looks like. Start
Yeah.
us at the very beginning on how you would share with
Yeah.
someone when they are faced with those types of circumstances in life.
Yeah, yeah, that is so real. What you just said, because people sit before me. As you said, I work with people that are coming from all different types of backgrounds, whether there's addiction or there's abuse, marital, premarital counseling, pastoral counseling, and everyone's theme is the same.
Hmm.
Everyone has a theme, a
Yeah.
story of how they got where they are. And sometimes they don't even know how they got where they are. They just know that they are in a place where they may feel stuck, or they may feel, okay, this is the hand that life has dealt me. But that's
Hmm.
not necessarily true. And you said a key word when you opened. You said that we were going to look at the lens.
Hmm.
We're going to consider the lens that we look through in life. And our eyes, I always share with my clients that our eyes are an organ. We don't see through our eyes. It's an organ that allows us to have vision, sight, but we actually see life through our experiences.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you and I can go through the same experience, but our lens, our theme, our story, our life's experiences will dictate to us how we process that experience.
Hmm. Hmm.
So for one person, they may feel, I'm stuck. I can't move and get through this. And for the other person might say, oh, life is telling me to pivot. I need to do a 180. I need to do a 90-degree turn. I need to stop, ponder, consider. So it really depends on life's experiences.
Exactly. We talked a lot about the lived experience on our podcast. Let's just talk about it. And many people are sharing their own lived experience, right?
Yeah.
Um, Oftentimes, yes, we manage our own companies now. We have done some phenomenal things, but often what I find is people think that we've never been through things. We've never been
Mhm.
through circumstances in our
Yes.
own lives, right? They
Yeah.
think like, oh, everything's perfect, everything's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
They've never had to really figure out what their new day is. And we'll both say that that is completely wrong
Yes.
because
Yes.
we have both,
Erroneous.
right,
Yeah.
been through some stuff. And one thing that
Yeah.
really impacted your life, I know, and I know you're okay with me
Oh,
sharing
yeah. Yeah.
this,
Mhm.
is that you lost your husband of
Yes.
35 years.
35 years. Yeah.
Um, and and it was a traumatic. It was
Yes.
traumatic. A man that, You know, I knew for 35
Mhm.
years, you
Yes.
know, I knew as the father of your children,
Yes.
you know, as the man in your home, as your set God, you know, man, you know, that was a
Yeah.
leader in the kingdom of God, a
Yes.
phenomenal
Yeah.
musician,
Yeah.
all of those
All
things
of that. All
you
of that.
went through for 35 years with your
Yeah.
husband, which was traumatic. Share
Yeah.
how out of that you had to
Mhm.
even create your own new day
Yeah.
beyond now no longer having
Mhm.
the tragedy of losing your husband
Yeah.
and having to figure out whether you were going to go on or whether you were going to stay just
Yeah.
stagnant
Stagnated.
in
Yeah. Yeah.
sorrow and pain and
Yeah.
loss. How
Yeah.
would you describe
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Well, thanks for allowing me just to, share this because I was going to go there. I was going to somehow try to segue in because I
Mhm.
know grief is huge. A lot of people go through grief by themselves or don't really know how to process grief or what grief actually looks like. And I can say that because of my deep roots in my faith, my own personal
Mhm.
faith, that's really what allowed me to still process and then having positive influences like yourself in my life, someone to be able to talk to and talk with about the experiences, the emotions that are attached to that. But I believe that, Ricardo and I, we had such a great relationship,
Uh-huh.
where we talked about everything. And he was a man of faith, as you said. And I had come to the realization and to the acceptance, and that's a huge word, is to accept what it is that is happening, the reality of what is actually happening in my life. I mean, of course, we had hoped to grow old together and see our grandkids and great grands, but that wasn't the ultimate plan for God
Mhm.
for our
Mhm.
lives. He allowed it to happen. And that's how I see it. So God allowed it to happen. That was only a chapter in my
Right.
life. And that's how I began to accept more easily, I guess I can say,
Mhm.
the passing, the transition of Ricardo. He lived his life up. He lived his life fully to the place where he was ready to move on and transition. I had to accept that. I
Right.
couldn't be selfish with that. And then I
Uh-huh.
had to accept that, okay, Lord, this is now it's what's my next?
What's
Thank
your name?
you for all of that. Being in a place of gratitude allows you to move forward. Being in a place, number one, to accept what is happening. You don't have to agree with it, but you have to accept that, yes, this is happening. And then find gratitude in it for all the good that's in it, the good that came out of it. And then to have a vision for your next.
Right. Right.
So that allowed me to propel and continue to smoothly move forward in a very healthy way of grieving.
Mhm. Mhm. Right. Because you could have made a different choice, right? You could
I
have
made a different
easily made
choice.
a different choice.
Absolutely. I could have done what a second grader would have done,
Mhm.
and had a fit about it and
Mhm.
complained about it and tore stuff off the walls and shut myself in and became isolated and did a blame game and go against my faith and God isn't real. And I mean, there's so many different things or roads I could have taken, and many people do take until they come to the realization and the acceptance of what is happening in their life. And that's with any trauma, that's with any setback, that's with any disappointment that life may bring your way. If it's a new job, if the job shut down, if the door was closed, it's a way you can look at it.
Mhm.
You're going to look at it as if, okay, there it goes again. Woe is me. The world is against me. Or you can take the posture to say, okay, there's a time and a season for every purpose. This season is up. What's my next?
What's my next? I like that. You know, one thing you shared, which made me think again, that I often share with my clients is that real change often begins through our disappointments,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
disappointments can be a catalyst for helping to create a new day
Yeah.
for us as we look to change the trajectory of our lives for
Yeah.
something positive, for something better, for a renewed mind, a renewed
Yeah.
heart,
Yes.
deliverance, hope, joy, all of the things that we could possibly think of that would help to give us and create a new day for us.
Yes, yes.
So
We have to have intentions.
yes,
It's like, what are your intentions? And if the things that are happening in your life are not in alignment with the intentions that you have in your heart, intentions meaning your vision. What
right,
is it that you could do, that you would love to do if there were no stops to it? Money's not an issue, time's not an issue. How do you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing? How do you see yourself being fulfilled in life? Let's move towards it. What are
right.
the intentions? What is not in alignment with those things that allow you to move forward? And a lot of times we'll make excuses.
Right? We've got a dozen of them, right? We got
Yeah,
a whole
yeah,
list of excuses. But something you shared, and something several of my other guests have shared, it's about being intentional,
intentional.
right? About
Mhm.
the opportunity to bring about what I call measurable and sustainable change. How
Yes.
do we become, how would you share with my audience how to be intentional
Mhm.
about designing your new day? And I'm not talking about designing oh, it's perfect, right?
Yeah.
Everything's
Mhm.
going to be, hunky dory, great. Life's not, I'm not going to have any
Mhm.
more disappointments or pain or
Mhm.
tragedies or, right, any of those kinds of things because
Mhm.
that may be very unrealistic, right?
Mhm.
But how
Mhm.
do we still create an avenue to reignite, if I might say, our
Mhm.
minds, reshift our mind,
Mhm.
our thinking,
Mhm.
right? To say, I want to create something better for myself.
Okay. Well, you would ask yourself with that first statement, I want to create something better for myself.
Mhm,
Okay, in what area? Is it in your personal life? Is
mhm,
it in your financial life? Is it in your professional life? Is it in your romantic life?
mhm.
Is it in your spiritual walk? So we first have to identify where we are in those aspects that create us, who make us who we are. We
Mhm.
all have family, whether it's one person or two people. You have family, your family life. What is it about your family life that you would like to see different? You
Right,
start there. And then you go down each one of those categories and you write out your vision. What is it that you want to see happen and change? Then we move towards it. What's the next step to getting closer to
right.
that vision? Whether it's a baby step forward or a huge quantum leap, you're still moving forward. So we move
Absolutely.
forward in that, making phone calls, getting contacts. A lot of times, like I share with, and this is one thing that I always do with my clients when we talk about exactly what we're saying here,
Uh-huh.
creating that vision. And a lot of times, one thing is linked to the next.
Right.
It's like you're talking about your education, or you're talking about getting maybe a raise or getting a promotion, or perhaps you need more skills. You need more skill sets. You need more education, more experience. So you have to
Mhm.
invest in yourself. Get yourself a coach and invest in somebody who knows a whole lot more than you do. That investment piece. So that's going to bring you back to your finances. What do your finances look like?
Right, right.
You have to start
I'm
working
glad you
on
said
your
that. I
finances.
mean, that is so true because funny you should actually say that because I didn't even have a chance to share this with you. But I was talking to my son who's 30 years old, and he
Mhm.
sent me a text message today. Dion. So he sends me a text message today, and he says, "Mom, I've got this amazing increase in my job. Now I can finally begin to do some things and save and get my situation back to what you've always said it could be." He says, "I'm sorry that it took me 30 years to figure out all the things that you've been telling me all
Yeah.
along."
But
And
it's his journey, though. You know what I'm
but it was
saying?
his journey exactly. He says,
Yeah,
"I'm
it's
so
hard.
sorry.
Yeah,
It took me this long." And I was like, "But you're there.
but you're
The
there.
important thing is that you're there now and you're making steps for
Yeah,
improvement." And I said to him,
yeah,
"I'm so proud of you
yeah, yeah,
because just acknowledging the fact that change was happening in his life for him
yeah,
to create a new day
yeah.
was so
Mhm,
significant." And
mhm.
I could feel the sense of his accomplishment through a text message. He didn't
Yeah,
tell me this over the phone. He
yes,
told me this through a text message, and I just began to smile. I
yes.
began to
Mhm.
feel in my spirit how God was doing something great in his
Yeah,
life, and He was moving him in a
yeah,
new direction.
yeah. Well, that's awesome, and congratulations, Dion. And it's like, again, it's part that was all part of his journey.
Hmm.
Had you intercepted and gave him the answer or the know-how of how to make certain decisions, he never would have got the lesson. And the
Mhm.
lesson would have came around again in another instance. So it's great that, I mean, even in that, Kim, it's like you are still growing in that area too of being a parent, because we're parents and, we never stop being parents. We
Right.
just parent differently. We're not so hands on. We kind of take a step back. And you're also a coach yourself, although we can see the answer, it's not up to us to give the answer.
Hmm.
Because then we take away the experience of someone else's journey. It's a lesson that they have to learn. It's a
There you
lesson they
go.
have to hone in, or it's going to happen all over again, just a different instance and a different day until they get that. Because the change will not take place until it's first recognized that change needs to take place.
That change needs to take place. And I do appreciate it as a lesson learned, right? Or a seed sown, right?
Yes.
I sowed a seed and, continue to water it,
Yes.
and it ultimately came along where God was getting the increase, and he began to give God thanks for allowing him to recognize all the things that have been deposited in his life through the things of God, right? My
Yes.
voice, right? My spirit man connecting with God,
Yes.
raising them in the things of God, that he began to realize, wait a minute. And yeah, there were some struggles, there were some things he was going through, but it was okay. So, because now that experience has created another opportunity for him. And I appreciate that even the more.
Yeah.
So we talk about New Day, and we
Mhm.
talk about sometimes the decisions that people make in their lives that wouldn't it be nice if we all could turn back the hands of time, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be nice? Hello, I got some things I'll be like, listen, that's a do over.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
do-over. How about we do that over,
Yeah.
right? But we can't turn back the hands of time. And often
Yeah.
we forget that there are consequences to the decisions that we make,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Even in the midst of us wanting to create a new day, how would you share with my audience just about how we look at consequences
Yeah.
and of our decisions,
Yeah.
um, and how they play a part in
Mhm.
still creating a new day, a new opportunity
Yeah.
for you in the process?
Yes. I always ask my clients, what part of this will you own?
Mm, there you go.
So it's either the ego is going to protect us and say, I didn't have anything to do with that, or it's their fault, or this happened because that happened. But what
Mhm.
part of it will you own and take responsibility for?
Wow.
So once we recognize that, yes, this did happen, just recognize the emotion that's attached to that consequence, because you
Mhm.
could be angry, you could be sad, you could be disappointed. Recognize that, yes, I'm all of those things, but I'm not those things.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
I recognize that, yes, I'm disappointed, but what can I do to make this different, to make my
Right.
outcome different? That's taking responsibility. That's being intentional about your next action.
Absolutely. And I'm sure these
Instead of
are
wallowing in it and staying stuck in that.
absolutely, because you've had many conversations. New Day Counseling deals with people with DWIs and
Sure.
DUIs,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And various levels of trauma, and even those pastoral counseling, because
Yes.
many times pastors go
Yes.
through an insurmountable
Yeah.
amount of pain
Yes.
and
Yeah.
loss, and just trying to figure out their place. No one is exempt, as I would
No one.
put it, right? Nobody
No
is
one.
exempt
No one.
from having a need to create a new day for them, for
Yes.
themselves,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So, as you're sharing with such a vast, different types of people, right?
Mhm.
The same message comes along, right? Comes back around in
Yes.
owning anything that
Mhm.
you've
Mhm.
done that may have contributed
Mhm.
to the
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. So it comes to the place where, again, is acceptance.
Hmm.
I accept that responsibility. I forgive myself,
Yes,
and I move in gratitude for my next.
for my next.
Because my thing is, if you can imagine it, it's for you to have.
That's my thing. If you can imagine the possibilities.
It's for you to have. What do I
That's
need
right.
to do to move towards that? And that's changing mindset, that's changing habits. Habits come with the change of a mindset. Change your
Mm-hmm.
mindset, your habits going to change also.
Hmm.
Keep
Hmm.
the same habits, you'll have the same mindset.
Same mindset, right?
Change your thinking, change your life.
Hmm. Because it doesn't happen by osmosis, right?
No,
There's
no.
something that you got to do, something
Yeah,
you got to put into place.
yes.
We even know that the Word of God says that faith without works is dead.
And it comes by hearing
Hearing.
over and over and over. And it's just like telling yourself, it's a new day. I'm worthy. I'm valuable. I'm above. I'm a CEO. I'm a boss. I'm
Hmm.
an awesome mom. I'm an awesome friend. I'm awesome in my finances.
Hmm.
Just reminding yourself and really speaking to yourself who you are. Because our subconscious mind will always remind us of what we've always heard and what we've always done. It doesn't know if it's right or wrong. It just knows that it's there. And a lot of times we only do what we see. We do what we know. We do what we've experienced. We do what we've been exposed to. It's like
Hmm.
growing up in a home where everyone yells, and
Hmm.
then you get in relationship and all you do is yell. But your partner's like, wait a minute, we don't have to yell. We can communicate differently. But it's like, but this is how I am. This is how we grew up. It doesn't make it necessarily the right thing or the right way to be. It's
Right.
just behaviors. So we can, just as, in the behavioral health field, all behaviors are learned, all behaviors can be unlearned as well.
Absolutely.
So it's like
And
replacing those thoughts with
right.
a new thought that'll bring about a new habit, would bring about a new beginning in your new day.
Absolutely. And you know what? It made me think of many things that you and I do often is we create affirmations for
Yeah.
ourselves. You were
Yeah.
sharing a little bit
Mhm.
about that. Oftentimes, if I were feeling down or I feel like I'm in a place where, I'm not who I want to be at the moment, I look for an affirmation. I
Yeah.
look to
Mhm.
reconfirm what God says
Mhm.
about me,
Yeah. The
you know,
very
the
last,
point that we made.
the very last assignment that I gave my group, where we're
Uh-huh.
talking about affirmations, exactly what you're saying. But I took it a step further, and I told them to look in the mirror, because we have it down. I am this, I am that, I'm whatever. How about look in the mirror and tell yourself, speak to you and say,
Mhm.
you are worthy. You are loved. You are accepted. You are beautiful. You are worthy. Just speak to that person in you that never got spoken to. And
Mhm.
it's like that child in you, the one who reminds you when you fall short.
Right.
It's like a lot of times when we aren't like some people have an issue or a challenge with being accepted, or they feel rejected. And it's,
Right.
where does that rejection come from?
Mhm. Mhm.
You're I don't see it like that. You see, it's the lens of your life's experiences that says you're rejected. And if
Mhm.
you think about it, it'll go back to a person, place, or thing where someone who you really valued or you really held in high esteem, that maybe they rejected you, or maybe they didn't show up for the baseball game, or they
Mhm.
didn't show up for your piano lesson, or they kept you home all the time, or and you felt rejected or not wanted. So the moment or the instance that happens to us as adults, our subconscious mind reminds us that, oh my God, this is familiar. Go ahead and feel like this again.
Mhm.
And here comes that rejection again.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we have to replace that. It's almost like we have to heal ourselves,
Absolutely.
remind ourselves that
Wow.
you are accepted.
This is so good. This is so good because it makes me think of where God wants us to readjust that spirit of familiarity, right?
Yeah.
That we have of ourselves, that spirit of familiarity that we sometimes put on others, right? Of always knowing them the way we may have first met them, or we have had a partnership with, or
Yeah.
we've communicated, right? And we adopt this spirit of familiarity, right? And oftentimes I found that in our ability or need to change, that sometimes we need to go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
We need to go back to that child, that young child
Yeah.
that we were,
Yeah.
right? Because there were many things. I'm a middle child. I'm a middle child, and I had middle child syndrome. You name it. I was always fighting against something. You know,
Okay.
my mother would say one thing, and I had an answer for something else. You know,
Okay.
so that middle child syndrome was a struggle for me. And so I had to figure out ways or how I was going to go beyond that to be
Mhm.
able to have this level of acceptance for who I am and what God wanted to develop in my life.
Yes.
So I'm excited because this opportunity for a new day doesn't come with a whole lot of baggage.
Yeah.
We like to carry a lot of baggage with us, right?
Yeah.
It gives us actually an opportunity to um, lose the baggage. There's who
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
lose their baggage? Who I
Yeah.
got so much stuff in there, right? Who want to lose?
Yeah.
But you've got pain in that baggage. You've got
Yes.
distrust in that baggage. You've
Yes.
got heartache in that baggage.
Yes.
You've
All
got
types of
right,
disappointment.
marital
Mhm.
trauma in that
Yeah.
baggage. You've got divorce in that baggage.
Mhm.
You've got the feelings of being inadequate for being single in
Yeah.
that baggage, right? That
Yes.
baggage
Yes.
got
Yes.
a whole lot of stuff in it.
Yeah. It's all a part of your journey.
Right. And there's
Well,
times when you need to lose that baggage in order
yeah.
to create your new day.
Yes. Yes. So it comes with acceptance. It doesn't come with trying to drink the pain away
Uh-huh.
or eat the pain away
Uh-huh.
or shop the pain away. Those process addictions. It doesn't come with anything other than acknowledging it, accepting it, and making a change,
And
making
make
an intentional desire to do something different.
wow. Well, this has been such an amazing conversation. Well, everyone, that's all we have for tonight. I'm so sorry, but I want to thank you for joining us. And don't forget to share our podcast with a friend. I want you to know that change is your only option. I want you to remove all the other options. There is so much more in store as we simply just talk about it. I want to also thank my special guest, Crystal Johnston, joining us tonight. There is something amazing about being changed beyond our challenges. So join us next week, same time, same day, as we have another phenomenal guest joining us. You don't want to miss it. And again, if you're new to our podcast, make sure you subscribe on YouTube and catch us on Facebook and other social media platforms. Before we go, I want Crystal to share her website on New Day so that you have it and you make sure that you reach out to her should you be in need. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really simple. mynewday.net.
mynewday.net. Make sure you check her out. I'm your host, Dr. K. Michelle Watson, and I'll see you next week. Grace and peace.
Grace and peace.
Well, everyone, that's all we got time for right now, but we'll keep the conversations moving and topics flowing. Join us for a new episode every Sunday at 8 p.m. for Let's Just Talk About It. Don't miss it, and don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. We'll always have a little